All right, y'all, we're going to look at operations with rational numbers and integers in this video. This is a major review because this stuff is kind of combined with everything we've talked about through this whole year. So I'm going to jump straight into one. I've got a dividing decimals problem here. So I'm going to put my numbers where they go. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that 0 off of the front. And then remember, you've got to slide. You cannot have a decimal on the outside. So I've got to get rid of it by moving it twice to the right, and I can do the same thing in here. Once I do that, I bring my decimal straight up. So I'm going to rewrite it over here as a different problem, but I've got 55 divided by 5, and I know that 55 divided by 5 is 11. So that was the easy one, but make sure you slide your decimals over, bring your decimal straight up, and then divide. Our next one is multiplying decimals. Again, I'm going to leave this 0 off the front. We don't really need that. But I've got 0.07 times 3. I'm going to ignore that decimal until the very end. So I know 3 times 7 is 21, and 3 times 0 is just 0. So I have 21 down here, and I know I have 2 numbers after the decimal. So I'm going to move this decimal over twice. So our answer on this one is 0.21. So decimals are pretty easy. It's really similar to just regular multiplication and division. We're going to look at how to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions really quick. So if I wanted to change 2 2/5, I'm going to do what we call Texas. So I can do 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 plus 2 is 12. I'm going to keep the denominator the same. So 2 2/5 is the same thing as 12/5. And then 11/4, if I want to change that into a mixed number, I'm going to divide, but instead of getting a decimal, I'm going to stop and I'm going to actually make it a fraction. So 4 goes into 11 twice, which is 8. When I subtract, I get 3. So this is where I would normally add my decimal and 0 and keep going, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do, we've called it the ice cream cone, but 2 3/4. So my answer is going to be 2 3/4. So pretty simple, but we're going to use that when we multiply and divide fractions. So down here, we've got a really simple one. Here's a dividing fractions. Remember, we do keep, change, reciprocal. We want to change this into a multiplication problem. So I change the division into multiplication, and the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1. Then remember, when we multiply, we just go straight across. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 1 is 3, so 2/3. So this second one is another multiplying one, but we have a mixed number right here, so we can't do that yet. We're going to have to change that into an improper fraction because we cannot multiply with mixed numbers. So 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and I keep the 4 on the bottom. So I really have 5/4 times 2/5. And then I get 5 times 2 is 10, 4 times 5 is 20, and that can simplify pretty easily to 1/2. Okay, that's all our fractions and decimals. I know this is a little longer video, but I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to add a little bit, just our integer rules down here at the bottom, just so we can see that one last time. So remember, multiplying and dividing with integers is pretty simple. If they're the same signs, it's going to be positive. If they're different signs, it's going to be negative. We've shown y'all this before. Y'all should know how to use the triangle. If you don't, remember, same signs are positive, different signs are negative. If we're adding, we're going to, if they're the same sign, I'm going to put SS for same sign. If they're the same signs, we just add and keep the sign. If they're different signs, we're going to subtract them because we're going to have 0 pairs, and we're going to keep sign of larger. So if I have more negatives than positives, I'm going to keep my negatives. If I have more positives than negatives, I'm going to keep it positive. And then subtracting, remember, we're just going to change it to addition. So we're going to kind of do keep change reciprocal, but we call it keep change opposite. So we keep the first number, change it to addition, and then we do the opposite of the second number. Like I said, this is just a real basic review. We've done this. Integers and fractions and decimals are kind of incorporated with everything we've done this year. But if you have any questions, pop in and let us know. We'd be happy to help.